Welcome to KURE Sports on ISUtv. I'm Taylor Mankle here, welcoming you back to a whole new season. That's right, we made it to Season 2. It's a miracle upon itself. Once again, I'm the sports director for KURE Sports, and most recently, a little just background about this show. Last year, we made a strategic partnership with ISUtv that allows us to basically create one of our 2-hour sports shows, mash it together into 1 hour, and put it on TV. As the song goes, the video killed the music star. So, we molded ourselves, the radio star, I should say. But welcoming me in here for our first episode of Season 2, we've got Garrett, Kroeger, and Dylan Ryan, both on their first show ever. So that's very exciting for me especially, so I'm just going to make you guys all kinds of nervous on this show, asking you questions. And what better to talk and make nerves happen than talk about Iowa State football? I mean, it just seems like the right thing to do.
I think that's easy to talk about because there's only one central thing. They're not that great.
There's one central thing, then that's not good. Okay.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's not winning.
It's not winning. That's true. It's not winning, but it is something, and we're going to talk about that. So we're going to start off this talk with some breakdown of the TCU game. The first question that I want to pose to both of you guys is the question that kind of started in every fan's head going into that TCU game in Fort Worth. Which quarterback was going to get a lot of play? We saw Joel Lanning get the start as most expected, but you saw Park get in there real fast. What were your thoughts on that, Kroeger?
I liked it a lot, actually,
Really?
because Park, he's a talented quarterback. He was a Elite 11 quarterback coming out of high school. Granted, he hasn't really played that much football since he's entered college because he did transfer out of Georgia, then went to a community college and didn't have a football team, so he played at Church League. So he's kind of shaking off the rust a little bit, but he has the talent there to be a very extreme good Big 12 quarterback. With Joel Lanning doesn't find that consistency that coaches are asking him to, I like to see Park more. So whichever one shows more consistency will be the leader towards the end of the season.
What were your thoughts of the back and forth between Lanning and Jacob Park in that game, Dylan?
Personally, I've always felt like the first game is the only game you should really have two quarterbacks in if you're still deciding. I think that at this point in the season, if you haven't decided yet, you really got to make the decision because overall, I feel like it hurts the offense more because you can't really get into a flow. Yeah. And once you get into that momentum really building, and it kind of really works for them. So if you can't establish that and you can't get really into the game, you can't really succeed. So I feel that's part of the reason we lost so bad.
I agree more with Dylan here. I think that you saw, even after either of these both of these quarterbacks had good drives out there, you saw them taking out the next drive. You saw Joel Lanning have one of his best drives early on in the game. I think it was the second quarter, went down, scored a touchdown. Next drive, Park's in there at QB. I don't think that's the right call. I understand what Matt Campbell's doing there, trying to get both of the talented quarterbacks out there to make something happen, because not much has been happening for that Cyclone football team on the offensive side. So doing that, I can see the merit, but I'm with Dylan here on this one. I think it outweighs with the cons.
I definitely agree with you, Dylan, there. But the thing is, none of them, yes, they have a good drive, but then the next drive that they have, they're very inconsistent on that. Now, granted, it may be because he gets taken out, but the thing, they just need to be more consistent every single drive, and that's the thing that they're missing.
Sure. Yeah, I think consistency is definitely not very seen in this team, but I think if you want to strive for consistency, I don't think changing the quarterback every three downs is a great call. All right, so let's move on to some more stuff about TCU. I really liked what I saw out of Mike Warren in that game. Granted, I think because of that was the coaching staff. They gave him 23 carries. Yeah. I think that's a huge part of that game. What did you guys see out of Mike Warren in this game?
I think with the increase in carries, confidence really came a long way. I feel confidence is a huge part of football, in my opinion. If you feel like you're ready to go out there and do it, you can do it because these are talented players. They're playing for Division I college schools, so they definitely have the ability to go out there and do it. And once they're given the opportunities, they can really succeed.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you right there, Dylan. Giving him more opportunities is very helpful for Mike because he did come in with a lot of accolades, being named preseason All-Big 12 running back after his stellar freshman season. And also, you have to kind of credit the offensive line. That was the best looking offensive line Iowa State has put out there in 3 games. And going to this, what we touched on against San Jose State, they're using that same offensive line again against San Jose State. That could spell more carries and more production out of Mike Warren as the season progresses because they really haven't started a concrete offensive line this year. So this would be the first game that actually starts with an actual same offensive line.
Yeah, and going off of that, Garrett, I want to ask you a question. What do you think was the best part of that game from Iowa State's perspective? You said the offensive line, we saw a lot of improvement there. They looked more confident. But what was the biggest upside to that loss?
Biggest upside? I'd probably go with the defense because they did get more 3-and-outs against TCU than they did the previous game.
Yeah.
Against Iowa, they only forced one 3-and-out against Iowa. Against TCU, they forced 5. And TCU has a high-powered offense.
They do.
If you look at that. So just the defense, because they were bend don't break, but they were doing a lot more breaking against Iowa. They showed more like bend against TCU.
And then on the opposite side of that, Dylan, what do you think was the best or the worst takeaway from Iowa State in this TCU game?
Personally, I feel our pass coverage has not been good at all so far this year. We have no interceptions through all the games we've played so far, and I think that's something we really need to improve upon. I think that if we can really kind of stop receivers from getting downfield and scoring touchdowns, it could go a long way in helping that front seven have some more time to actually get at the quarterback. So I really feel that could really go a long way for this team. Okay,
yeah, I can see that. I think my worst part of it was probably the run defense, actually. They gave up 229 yards to a not necessarily a running team in TCU. They just really abused that front seven of Iowa State. You saw a couple players stand out. Damon Tucker had a good game, but I really think that front seven needs to improve. Let's move forward, though. Let's go on to more previewing here as we move into San Jose State Week. That will be on Saturday, of course, broadcast live on KURE Sports. It'll be myself and Pat Stanek on the call. We'll start the broadcast around 10:30. Of course, broadcast live on KURE885.org. But San Jose State, tell me a little bit about the Spartans, Kroeger.
The Spartans, so far this year, are 1-2. Their one win is against an FCS opponent.
Portland State.
Portland State, and their other 2 losses are against Tulsa and Utah.
Yeah.
This past week, actually, against the Utes, they allowed 10 sacks.
10 sacks,
so
I saw that, yeah.
And their offensive line has been allowing a sack every 6.2 pass attempts.
Wow.
So it's the second worst offensive line in the country in terms of allowing sacks. So, like, the offensive, defense for Iowa State, they show improvement. So it could spell a really good turnout for Iowa State this week.
Yeah, what is something that you take away from the Spartans going into this game?
Well, I feel this is a huge game for Iowa State, even though it may not look like a big game, because this is potentially, if we don't win this game, there's a chance we don't win a game the rest of the season, I feel.
Chance they don't, yeah.
Because, I mean, their schedule's not easy, and there are some teams that are easier to beat down the schedule for sure, like Kansas, but there's definitely an improved squad over there, so they have to go into this game expecting that they need to play as hard as they can. And especially with that stat you just gave there, that front seven has to feast on that and have take a big opportunity in that.
For sure. Give me one, is that your guys' key, or give me one different key to the game for Iowa State to take the win at home?
My key for victory for Iowa State would be running the ball. In their 2 losses for San Jose State, they've allowed over 200 yards rushing.
305 against Tulsa.
Yeah, 305 against Tulsa. And Tulsa's a passing team.
They are.
So get Mike Warren going early and often. That could spell a win for Iowa State.
Key to victory, Dylan?
You got to get Alan Lazard involved. He wasn't really a huge factor last week, and I think that if you can get him involved and really get him going, it can really kind of boost this team, and they can get going down the stretch and really kind of air the ball out and give opportunities more for Mike Warren.
For sure, for sure. I think that definitely will play a big role in it. Because it is a new season here, I want to ask you guys the question. We have asked it many times on our radio shows, but asking it here. Now that the season's a little started, what is Iowa State football's final record? Dylan?
I'm going to go 2-10 as their final record. I feel that we're going to win this week and we're going to beat Kansas, but besides that, I'm not seeing that much optimism because I haven't really seen much to really give that. I feel like it's optimistic to say 2-10 at this point, which is kind of not the best thing.
No, it's not. It's not good to hear.
If we can really show ourselves this year, I think 3 wins is a possibility, but I'm playing it safe and going with 2.
Garrett?
I'm going to go 4-8.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I'm going to be that optimistic Iowa State fan.
Dude.
Like, I'm sorry. I like to be passionate about Iowa State football.
You sound like Alex Krell over here.
I'm sorry.
I was watching a replay of one of these shows last year. He said, you better get your bowling ball because this team's going to the
I'm not saying they're a bowl game,
but that's basically what you're saying right here with 4 wins.
Here's the thing. So San Jose State and Kansas are the first 2, okay?
Okay.
I feel like Matt Campbell and Iowa State, he's already energized his program, okay, people? Like, don't underestimate Matt Campbell. But the thing is, Iowa State is known to win games that they shouldn't. Like, Oklahoma State
Under Coach Paul Rhodes.
Under Coach Paul Rhodes, and I have my opinions on Coach Paul Rhodes, which I will not say on air, but I believe Matt Campbell's a better coach than CPR, so I feel like Iowa State can pull up 2 upsets this year. So 4-8 people.
2 upsets, not just one to start his career, but 2 upsets.
Yep.
That's
if they have the talent.
That's a bold statement, my
star
friend.
is
That's a
not
bold
showing
statement. Whew. Yeah, we'll see about that one. We'll keep you posted on Garrett Kroeger's 4 wins on this season of Iowa State football. That's our Iowa State football segment. We'll be right back with some NCAA football right after the break. Stay tuned.
What I shouldn't do, I will. They say I'm emotional. What I wanna save, I'll kill. Is that who I truly am? I truly don't have a chance. Tomorrow I'll keep a beat and repeat yesterday's dance. Yo, this song will never be on the radio. Even if I click with a pick and the people with a vote, it's a few the proud and the emotional. Yo, you, bulletproof and black like a funeral. The world around us is burning, but we're so cold. It's the few, the proud, and the emotional. I'm fairly local. I've been around. I've seen the streets. You're walking down. I'm fairly local. Good people now. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. I'm not evil to the core. What I shouldn't do, I will fight. I know I'm emotional. What I wanna save, I will try. I know who I truly am. I truly do have a chance. Tomorrow I'll switch the beat to avoid yesterday's dance.
Yo, this song will never be on the radio. Even if my click with a pick and the people with a vote, it's a few the proud and the emotional. Yo, you, bulletproof and black like a funeral. The world around us is burning, but we're so cold, it's a few the proud.
Welcome back to KURE Sports on ISUTV. I'm Taylor Mankle, and there are 2 new people here. As you see, we've got Hunter Smith for the very first time on KURE Sports on ISUTV. And of course, we've got my man Mainzer back in action for another season of this fantastic show that is done miraculously with very few staff. It's great times, great times. But let's talk a little NCAA football as we just wrapped up our Iowa State segment. Actually, I'll tell you what. Before we get there, I want to ask you guys the pressing question that I asked the last 2. How many wins is Iowa State going to finish the year with? As Kroeger thinks, 4. Are you guys in the same boat?
I'm going to not be in the same boat. I'll go with 2 as well. I don't like to be pessimistic, but after the last 3 games,
That's being a realist, friend.
Yeah,
it's being a realist.
It's being a realist. When it comes to other teams, maybe like the Bears, some of my other favorite teams, I'll go a little bit higher. But with Iowa State, I'm going to go with 2 wins this year.
How many wins do you think they take out of this season?
Well, after the Hawkeye game, ESPN was predicting they were only going to get 1 win, and that was against San Jose State. After this game against TCU, they're saying that they will be able to get Kansas. I still got to give them 1 win. I think San Jose State's going to be the only thing they're going to be able to get a hold of this season.
Yeah, those are more respectable picks than 4 wins, Kroeger. But regardless, let's talk about some NCAA football. And I wanted to touch on the team that I love to watch thus far this year, the Louisville Cardinals. How about them Cardinals, Hunter? Talk about their season thus far and, of course, at the helm in Lamar Jackson.
I mean, Lamar Jackson, just in the past few games, I mean, he's really proven that he can be a Heisman hopeful here this season. I mean, it's not even a doubt.
Hopeful? I think he's the front runner.
He pretty much is. I mean, he's only had 6 snaps in the 4th quarter. I just saw today by ESPN. And to put up the kind of numbers that he has is just astounding. And the way that they went out and completely just obliterated Florida State, I mean, Florida State is one heck of a program. And for them to be able to step up and do that consistently the entire game, that shows the kind of potential that this Louisville team has.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Going into this game, you know, I thought Lamar Jackson would fare well. I thought he would fare decent, maybe slightly above average against Florida State, because the two teams that they played previously, Louisville played previously, they're joke teams. Yeah. And it's expected that he puts up huge number in those games. But to put up huge numbers against Florida State, top 5 team in the nation, that is enormous. That puts them on the playoff map for sure. What did you think about this performance?
Yeah, and I'll tell you about some of those numbers. Lamar Jackson coming into that game, you would expect him to pass pretty well. They're going to run it a little bit. That's sort of their go-to thing. But 14 design runs against Florida State for 145 yards, and that's a 10.3 average. And like you mentioned, the first 2 games you'd expect him to really rack up those stats. But against a Florida State second-ranked team in the nation, and he's able to get over 10 yards per carry. That's just so impressive. I mean, that's a first down every time your quarterback's running the ball.
Yeah, it's crazy. And he's so diverse within the running game and the passing game. Every week they continue to impress me just a little bit more, not only from Jackson, but as a whole team. The defense played very well against Florida State in this game as well, basically just dominating in all aspects of the game. Let's move on to a different topic here. The Big 12, not off to a great start this football season. And with how the playoffs stand right now, only 4 teams, are they already eliminated?
I got to say they are. I mean, you're looking number 1 right now in the Big 12, it's TCU. And granted, they took care of business with Iowa State, but it wasn't the kind of just spanking that you need to be producing in order to get into the college football playoffs. Plus, not having a championship in the Big 12, that's going to hurt any team that's trying to step up and get to that playoff round. And looking at teams like Louisville, who are coming forward, who are trying to get to the playoffs, sure. There's not a team in the Big 12 that can compete, and a team that looks like that they need to be in thus far.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree with you. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, and you mentioned that you look at teams like Ohio State, Michigan, all those, and then Oklahoma, they already have 2 losses.
Yeah.
They're basically out of contention. People thought more of Baker Mayfield, and so you have those 2 top teams in TCU and Oklahoma, and they're not even impressing. First time in years that we haven't had anybody in the top 15, so not looking good. And then you look at the bottom teams, they can't prove themselves, and like Iowa State, we're still not even winning. So.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the only unbeaten team in the Big 12 right now is Baylor.
And I'll tell you, Baylor's not going to make it.
No, Baylor's
they
not.
Can't.
I don't see that happening whatsoever. You saw Texas lose to Cal. Texas was on the up and up after a big win against Notre Dame at the beginning of the season.
And they were talking playoff contention after that game, and just like that, they're gone.
Just like that, they're gone. Oklahoma State, you thought they might be able to fight their way back into it if they beat Ohio State over the weekend. Nope, not happening there. TCU, obviously, with the loss to Arkansas earlier in the season, already at home in double overtime. I don't think it's in the cards. I don't think there is any possibility that the Big 12 makes it. And we're saying that 3 weeks in. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. What would be, well, let's move over to a different conference here. With that being said, is it possible for potentially a 2-team, maybe Michigan and Ohio State, to both make this 4-team playoff?
It'd be more likely than any team in the Big 12 making it.
Yeah,
The biggest problem with that, though, is with the Big 10 championship, someone else is going to have one more loss on that schedule. And so, I mean, obviously, whoever wins the Big 10 championship more than likely is going to be in the playoff. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, whoever loses, just like last year with Iowa, gets to the Rose Bowl. But as far as 2 teams getting in, I don't see it happening with the Big 10. You can see it with the SEC and maybe the ACC with Clemson and Louisville, but we got to see how this Clemson-Louisville matchup stacks up. Yeah. But as far as 2 teams out of the Big 10, I can't see it happening.
What do you think, Michael?
I can kind of see it happening, and it's those 2 teams you mentioned. It's Ohio State and Michigan. And last year we heard it all the time with SEC. Can the SEC provide 2 teams? And I think that this year, I mean, Jim Harbaugh, and Urban Meyer both have proved that those 2 teams can go far. And I think that even if one of them loses in the Big 10 championship, I could see those 2, along with maybe Louisville, maybe Houston. There's a lot of hype around these early risers, those getting in. But I think if it does happen, it would be the Big 10 because, like you mentioned, Big 12's already basically out.
Yeah.
Could be with the Big 10. We could get 2 teams.
I think it's possible. I kind of like what you said, though, Hunter. I think the race for maybe potentially an ACC double team might go in. If Louisville continues and if Clemson, they're going to have to kick up their game here. Granted, they haven't lost yet, but they have not played up to the potential that many thought they were going to going into this season. So if they kick things up into the caliber they were at towards the bottom half of the season last year, and they're playing against Louisville, that could be a potentially 2 squads from the same conference in the playoff. I think that's more likely than the Big 10 at this point, even though Ohio State and Michigan both have more tough schedules than most of the Big Ten teams. I wouldn't say they were exactly hard. I would give Ohio State, they have a hard schedule, but Michigan not as much as Ohio State. The last point we have here on the NCAA football segment, don't schedule the Bison. How about NDSU? How about them beating those Hawkeyes?
Well, we say don't schedule the Bison, but as Iowa State fans...
Bison, remember.
Bison.
They will get
Bison.
angry. They will watch and they will get angry. Bison.
Bison.
But we should be happy over the last weekend. I'm not even going to say it. NDSU, we from Iowa State, thank you, because watching Iowa go down is something that we all can enjoy. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people will argue that they should just be in the FBS, they should move. It is kind of a weird thing to have in the NCAA, but at the same time, it's a team that is able to go out and compete. And if you put them on your schedule, you should still be confident going into that game that you win. I mean, we see Iowa State schedule Northern Iowa and stuff like that and still lose those games. And it should be confident games where it's easier than your TCU, your conference games, but you still need those confidence builders. So I can understand sometimes scheduling the Bison.
Scheduling. You got it there. Hunter, what do you think about the Bison and that win in Iowa City?
I mean, if you look at it, Iowa paid $500,000 to play these guys, and basically the only reason they do it is to put a win on the schedule.
Yeah.
But the problem is, and Iowa State's seen it, they keep losing to these FCS teams. And why wouldn't you just play the FBS team that's even worse than North Dakota State?
Play Iowa State twice.
Exactly. But, you know, $500,000 you're saying to put a win on the schedule, and yet they lose.
Yeah.
And North Dakota State, I mean, they're a great team, but they're not a team that should have taken down at number 13 ranked Iowa. Their first 2 games of the season were against other FCS opponents, took them double overtime in both games, or not double overtime, but just regular overtime in both games to beat them, to knock them off. And so I think Iowa went into the Kinnick knowing that, and they didn't prepare well enough for a team that is undoubtedly the best in the FCS. I mean, it's not even a question.
Yeah, they were definitely sleeping on NDSU, maybe because they lost their starting quarterback, but that team just filters in so much talent. You got to look out for the Bison, and a lot of those top-tier FCS teams. You got to look out for, you know, the Montanas and the UNIs, as well as Iowa State knows firsthand. Last question here in NCAA football. I love this question from our own Michael Murrell. Is there anyone who can knock off Stanford in the Pac-12? I think the answer is yes. I'd like to hear your guys's.
I mean,
I gotta look at the Pac-12.
The only team you really think at here is Washington.
Yes.
You look at Utah a little bit; they're ranked 24th.
Sure,
but,
sure.
With Christian McCaffrey, you like Stanford to take it. Washington's been a strong team so far, but
That defense.
they still need to get battle tested a little bit
Okay,
more.
okay, I can see that. What do you think, Hunter?
I mean, you look at Stanford and how they played last season, and then look to how they're continuing that into this season. And Cal and Washington have put up some good games here recently, especially with Cal being able to knock off Texas.
Sure.
But I mean, as far as Washington goes, I don't think they can get Stanford. I think Stanford is going to be able to take care of business in the Pac-12. I do think that.
I think Stanford should, but I will give Washington a better chance than not, actually. I love that defense of the Huskies this year. I think the hype is a little too high right now. I think I've seen a lot of people think that they are a playoff team. I don't think they're a playoff team. I don't think the Pac-12 is, at the end of the year, going to deserve a playoff team, as we saw how much they floundered, except Stanford in the bowl games last year. Just absolute horrific performances by the Pac-12. I don't think they're up to the par for those Final Four teams, but I'll definitely give Washington a better chance than not to knock off Stanford at the top of the Big 12. But we're going to take a break here. We'll be back with some NFL right here on KURE Sports on ISUtv. Don't move a muscle.
None of this means anything.
Welcome back to KURE Sports on ISUtv. I'm Taylor Mankle, of course, welcomed by Michael Mainzer and Michael Murrell, back in action on KURE Sports on ISUtv. We're glad to have you back, man.
Good to be here, Taylor.
I'm glad you're happy to be here. But we're going to talk some NFL action. And I know you guys, you're real into this whole NFC North kind of thing, that kind of cult you guys have going on. So let's talk about some NFC North news. What do we want to start with? Do we want to start with the bad Packers, the bad Bears, the surprisingly good Vikings? What do we want to talk here first?
It's all painful here for Bears fans.
We can talk about the Bears a little
Okay,
bit.
let's talk about the bad Bears. We'll start off with that.
So I'm actually going to hype up the Bears a little bit.
Oh, come on.
They're obviously not looking like Super Bowl. They're not looking like playoffs, but there is some reasons of optimism. You see Danny Trevathan, Jarrell Freeman, they added 2 solid linebackers.
Trevathan is out for
Not
the foreseeable future
Trevathan.
now.
Lamar Houston. is
No,
out.
Trevathan had a thumb surgery today as well. That came out like an hour ago.
All right, reports per Michael Murrell. We also have lost Trevathan. So it's slowly going down, and that is the trend. But we have played the Eagles.
They
who are
have.
surprised. They have played.
They have
I'm
played.
not a part of the Bears.
You don't play for the Bears.
They have played the Eagles, who Carson Wentz is surprisingly doing well so far, as well as the Houston Texans, a playoff team. So I think that they will
We'll see.
surprise most, maybe finish 6-10, 7-9, not 4-12, like most people are saying. You look at the Vikings; they're very banged up. Not 4-12. They're not going to finish 4-12. And then the Packers have been struggling a little bit. Not going to say that they're going to beat the Packers, but I think that the Bears fans can have a little bit to look forward to. Hopefully, Kevin White can pan out, and in the year's future, once Cutler's finally gone, hopefully they can turn around.
Yeah, I agree with Mainzer, but for a couple of different reasons. There are some reasons for some optimism. For instance, the Bears are 9th in the NFL in total yardage allowed on the defensive end. They're 2nd in yards per play, on the defensive end. So there is reason for optimism there, especially on the defensive side of the ball. What you really need to see is that offense needs to be able to score in the second half. I mean, that team has looked really good in the first half of both of their games, including against a 2-0 Texans team where they had a lead up until the fourth quarter. It's almost like the coaching staff isn't making adjustments mid-game. And I know that's shocking considering John Fox is such a good football coach, has such a good history, but it's remarkable the lack of in-game adjustments and adjusting your scheme to what the defense is doing against that offense.
Okay, yeah. Glad I could get you guys' Bear takes because nobody else wants to hear them. So let's talk about the Vikings. They had a very impressive game on Sunday night against the Green Bay Packers, opening up, what's it called, MetLife Stadium?
US Bank.
U.S. Bank, that's right. U.S. Bank Stadium looks kind of like a boat. It's pretty cool. But regardless, they were able to win that game with Sam Bradford at QB. Against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
With essentially nothing out of Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, with nothing out of Adrian Peterson. How?
The defense.
Yeah.
Honestly, the defense is just remarkable. I have been questioning, especially after week 1, that all of their scoring came out of the defense. And was that offense going to be able to keep up? And would that, with the defense not scoring? Because the defense didn't score points, but the defense proved that not only could it not, even when it can't score, it's still capable of forcing turnovers against a great quarterback, maybe with the best in the NFL, in Aaron Rodgers. And they were able to force turnovers, create havoc, and limit the Packers to, 14 points?
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last time Aaron Rodgers was held to 14 points? I mean,
Exactly.
It's been a while. I mean, that's a decent Jaguars team that he put up 30 points on. So
I think the more important thing to note is the fact that the offense was able to produce when the defense, you can rely on that defense for the Vikings. I think they knew that going into this year, but when you can get your Sam Bradford off of a trade, get him in there, sign him, and have him in his second week with the program be able to go out there, lead your team to a victory.
And also, it's worth noting that he's going to get better the more he plays in that
the more
system.
he gets the system down, the better he's going to play. I think that's a huge part to that, and the fact that he was able to, without the legs of Adrian Peterson, lead that team to a victory is huge.
Yeah, and you mentioned the absence of Adrian Peterson. Somebody that really stepped up to the occasion that no one has mentioned yet is Stephon Diggs, finished with over 180 yards. He's really filled into that number 1 receiver role in his second year. So the Vikings have their receiver, their go-to guy. Hopefully Peterson, if you're a Vikings fan, is going to get back within 3 to 5 weeks. People are hoping for a very quick recovery, even though he does have a torn meniscus, which normally would be longer than 3 to 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And let's also not forget, it's their first home game in this new stadium, so they were amped to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And Mike Zimmer came with a defensive game plan, and he has been giving Rodgers fits for years, and he did in this game as well. This is one of the worst games Rodgers has had in a long time.
Now let's talk about some overreactions versus legit right now. We're only 2 weeks in, so there are a lot of these predictions out there. Let's start off with one of the rookies who's been playing well thus far, Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Overreaction, legit.
Oh, he's definitely legit.
Really?
I obviously as a Bears fan watched that game last night, and one play that stuck out to me was not any of the plays that got him yardage, but it was a play that was called back for holding, and the Bears brought a blitz, and I believe it was Jarrell Freeman who came unblocked, and Carson Wentz didn't do what you see a lot of rookie quarterbacks do, which when that happens, they back up and they make a bad throw. Carson Wentz accepted the fact that he was going to get hit. He stepped in and made a strike down the middle of the field, 20 yards, and understood that there are times when you get blitzed, you're going to have to take a hit, and it was a 20-yard play downfield. That, to me, showed maturity as a quarterback to be able to see the pressure and not panic when it was coming. Just still to keep your eyes downfield, find the open man. And that, to me, was the single biggest thing that I saw Carson Wentz prove that he is definitely NFL ready.
Overreaction or legit?
I think it's a little bit of an overreaction for now, but he has the potential to be legit. That hit that he took is good to see. He's able to step up in the pocket and make that throw. The other hits that he took, he's running outside the pocket, getting 6 yards, and not sliding. Instead, he's just taking these big hits from linebackers, not going out of bounds. We saw what happened to Robert Griffin III, and that's not what you want on your quarterback, so he's got to learn how to slide. And also, with the Eagles right now, the receivers are getting a lot of drops, so they're going to be able to improve a little bit. So he's, with due time, I think going to be a legit NFL quarterback. But right now, I think everybody should scale the predictions back a little bit. They're still not a playoff team. But
I agree.
I'd be happy if I was an Eagles fan. Wentz is definitely looking solid.
I think there is legit that he is a mature quarterback. I think it's an overreaction of what skill he actually possesses. They've played 2 very bad teams thus far to start their season. No offense, but very offense. I mean, come on. It's the Bears. They're very bad. Through the first 2 games, they're a top 10 defense for sure.
Also, if your offense puts up what it does, the defense is going to change the situation.
Yeah. So I think it's an overreaction based on the fact that they have played some very bad teams. I'll give it a little more time, as we all will, but I think he does, like you said, Murrell, have a legit maturity under his belt. But let's go to some more overreactions versus legit. I want to hear what your guys' take on the Seattle Seahawks thus far. Overreaction, is everything going to hell? Are they not going to make the playoffs? Are they going to continue to lose?
They're going to continue to lose, but not every game. They're still a legit NFL team, and people have to remember that Russell Wilson in the back half of the season I believe his winning percentage is around 800, while towards the first half it's around 500.
True.
So as the season progresses, Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll are going to get a game plan. But Marshawn Lynch is no longer there. That offensive line is in shambles. They look terrible. So if you're a Seahawks fan, I don't see you getting over the Cardinals, and it's going to be a wild card for that team, if anything.
What do you think?
I mean, it's hard for me to count out the Seahawks. I mean,
it is.
I mean, they've just been so good, and the defense has still been really good.
Oh, it's very
for the
solid.
First 2 games.
Yeah,
The defense, I think, is ranked first in the NFL, like across the board. So, I mean, when your defense is still performing, I really believe that Russell Wilson and that offense is going to get there. I don't believe they're doomed. They've had a lot of injuries, especially the wide receiver position. I think that offense is going to adjust just like they did last year, and I think they're just going to get better throughout the year.
Yeah, I think it's worrisome, however, because you see year after year the Seahawks getting better with time. Why can't they translate that into the offseason and continue to get better after a good, solid end to the season when you finally get Russell Wilson acting like he's the MVP of the league? If you could just continue that, you would have a fantastic team throughout the season. I think it's worrisome that they can't do that, but again, with that defensive unit leading them to at least close games, if they get something going with that offensive side, I think you'll see a little more from Rawls as well as Russell Wilson throughout the year that will get them back into the winning ways. Well, we got a couple more things we want to talk about here. Let's jump down to, let's do the fantasy one. Does fantasy take away from the sport? Fantasy football, arguably, at some points of the season is more popular than the sport itself of football. Is this taking away, or is it giving something additional that helps the sport of football?
You know, I'm kind of torn on this issue because you definitely find yourself if you have a player that's playing against your team. For instance, I'm a Bears fan. If I had an Eagles player that I needed to put points, it's hard to root. So that makes it.
Yeah. So let me ask you a specific question. If you are in that instance, do you root for the defensive player, or do you root for your team? Are you a true?
I
Are you a true
root for
fan?
my
for
team.
both.
I root
Okay.
for my team first, but I root for both. I want him to score 3 touchdowns, but my team still win.
Yep.
But
Really? Really?
I do think though overall it adds more positives than negatives. I think it causes a lot more people to follow the league as a whole as opposed to just their team. I think it.
You could say the opposite of that. You could say it makes them follow players more than the teams themselves.
That's true as well.
I mean, some people are like, oh man, that team's really good because Amari Cooper got me so many points last week, and Raiders still kind of suck.
Yeah.
But
And I mean, before fantasy football, a lot of people know that gambling was really popular.
Oh,
and
for sure, yeah.
And fantasy football has been slowly taking over. I mean, now it's like over 10 million people play.
Mm-hmm.
And Matthew Berry always mentioned it gives people a rooting interest. But
That's
does
true.
it necessarily give them a good rooting interest? Because like you mentioned, you're just following players. And I've talked to a lot of people, just regular fans and stuff, who are like, nobody even cares about the outcomes of the games. Like when you watch College Game Day on a Saturday, you're watching 2 teams go wire to wire. Now on Sunday, it's garbage time and you just want your player to get some yards. So
Yeah.
it takes away from one aspect, but it does add another aspect of you have 6 games on Sunday and all 6 you have a player, so you get to watch them and root for something.
Yeah.
And I think that's what benefits it.
okay, so pros and cons on both sides is what I'm hearing from the both of you. I agree with both of that. I mean, there are different sides to every coin, so I like your guys' answers there. Let's talk about some injuries before we take it to a break here. What are some of the key injuries across the NFL right now?
I mean, it was truly a remarkable week in injuries
Yeah, it was.
across the board. I think
Remarkable.
it was. I think it might have been the most amount of injuries I've seen in a single week at the key skill positions. I mean, it was really insane how many there were. But you think Adrian Peterson, you think Josh McCown was the second quarterback in as many weeks for the Browns to go down.
What is it? The last 7 games the Browns have played, they're starting a different quarterback. The last stretching into the last season.
That's just an insane statistic.
It is.
It really actually kind of captures the past 20 years of
the
Cleveland Brown
Browns,
football. But I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jay Cutler, Danny Woodhead, Doug Martin, Thomas Rawls, Jonathan Stewart, Arian Foster. I mean, it's just the list goes on and on. Julio Jones. I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, there were 2 Seattle wide receivers to go down the same week.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy, and you see it on the defensive end too. I mean, people don't recognize the names as much, but the defensive end had just as many injuries, if not more, than the offensive end. I think that might have been the single most injury regular season week I've seen in a while.
That might be true. I think in the offensive end, that's probably true, at least for the big names that we saw out there that really stuck out in that NFL in last week, excuse me.
Yeah, and Garoppolo going down, I think, was probably the most interesting one. He's only in for 4 weeks. Nobody really expected this at all. Everybody was like, are they going to go 2-2, 3-1? And then their backup goes down.
Yeah.
So they still have 2 weeks left for Brady, and I think it's Jacoby Brissett. That's how you say it. We'll see how he does on a very short week under Bill Belichick Thursday against the Texans. That should be a good game.
At the same time, though, the Jimmy Garoppolo one, because of the first 2 weeks and how everyone else in that division did and how the Patriots did, the Jets are 1-1, and then the Dolphins and the Bills are both 0-2. So even if under Brissett they lose both games,
Doesn't really matter.
It really doesn't matter because that will still be a game back with 2 games still against the Jets and Tom Brady at the helm. I mean, this was an opportunity for the Bills, for the Jets to take an advantage, and they just didn't.
They did not. They did not.
Those Patriots every year.
So real quickly, before we take it to a break, give me your super early Super Bowl teams. I don't want to hear who's going to win. Just give me your 2 teams that are in the Super Bowl. Let's go with you first, Mainzer.
I'm going to go with the Patriots over in the AFC.
Okay.
And it's not a pretty one, but I'm going to go with the Cardinals over in the NFC. We saw it very recently, and right after getting beat by the Patriots, we saw the Cardinals go and just stomp on the Bucs. I think they're still the team to beat in the NFC, and they're going to get their revenge.
Okay. What do you think, Michael?
I like both those picks. I thought about both those teams as I was making this, but first off, the Steelers have just looked amazing in the AFC.
They have.
They have looked really
Blunt's
impressive.
still coming back.
Yeah, and Le'Veon Bell's still
Bell,
out.
excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, my bad.
I mean,
Bell.
it's just incredible. I mean, D'Angelo Williams, their backup running back, and he's the number 1 running back in the NFL right now. And then, as much as it pains me to say it, the Vikings look so impressive on Sunday night.
Super Bowl.
I
hear it too much. I can't hear it from you too.
If they get Adrian Peterson back, I mean, it pains me so much to say it, but there's no one in the NFC that's impressed at all. I don't see a single team in the NFC that's impressed anyone. And the Vikings are the only NFC team that has impressed anyone at all.
I don't know. I can't see the Vikings. I could definitely see the Steelers. I think it's in between the Steelers and the Patriots. I would probably give the leg up on the Patriots right now because They still have Tom Brady coming back. Then I think I'm going to have to go with Mainzer as well. I like the Cardinals. They were my favorite going in. It is chalk. It really is. I think just the talent across the board on that team should be enough if they play to their full potential to reach the Super Bowl. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with these same two guys with some hot takes right after this on KURE Sports on ISUtv.
When I was a young boy, my father took me into the city to see a marching band. He said, son, when you grow up, would you be the savior of the broken, the beaten, and the damned? He said, will you defeat them, your demons, and all the non-believers, the plans that they have made? Because one day I'll leave you a phantom to lead you in the summer to join the Black Parade.
Welcome back to KURE Sports on ISUtv. I'm Taylor Mankle, again with Michael Mainzer and Michael Murrell. It's Mike and Mike, and then Taylor's in the middle right now. I'm just ruining this for everybody. But regardless, we're going to jump into a segment I like to call Hot Takes. Basically what we do here is I'm expecting some just right out of the cannon, not expecting it, some big takes, some hot takes from these two. I'm going to ask them a bunch of questions spanning across all sports. That's right, all sports. We're covering a lot in hot takes. So basically, I'm going to ask you guys these. I don't want you to sit there and think. I don't want you to sit there and ponder. I want you to give me your hot take. I want it good.
You know, this first question is rather ironic, too.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I wrote this before the Sunday night game, but can the Vikings win the North with Sam Bradford at the helm?
Sadly, absolutely.
No. No way.
They definitely can. First off, they're the only undefeated team outside of the NFC East left in NFC, and they looked incredible. Honestly, that was a sincerely amazing performance by Sam Bradford and that Vikings defense. And I have to apologize. I told Jacob Lee on my radio show on last Wednesday that I thought the Vikings, after that Week 1 performance, were going to go 2-4. Mm-hmm. I honestly believed that because of how bad the offense was. I was wrong. That Vikings team is for real. They are a good football team.
I think they might be able to win the North. Whether they're going to go very far in the playoffs is a different question. I don't think they can go very far in the North. I think they might be able to win the North.
I agree with the North. I still have the Packers winning the North. Okay. But my argument would be, if they had Adrian Peterson, I could maybe see them winning the Super Bowl. But with AP being out now as well, I don't think Sam Bradford, only 1 week into the system, or 2 weeks into the system, 1 week game under his belt, is going to be able to carry them to a Super Bowl, even if their defense is that good. There's still too many teams like the Panthers, the Cardinals, that are going to stop them.
All right, hot take number 2. Give me your 4. Final 4, NCAA football. Who's in your playoff? Murrell.
So I have Alabama and Ohio State and Louisville. Those are my 3 big ones. I also have Stanford in there. I think Stanford runs the table in the Pac-12. I really don't see a Pac-12 team that's good enough to knock them off Christian McCaffrey.
Washington.
I don't think Washington can do it. But I truly think those 4 teams are the teams that come.
Think Stanford makes it? Okay. Mm-hmm. Give me yours.
A little chalky, but it's also a lot of hype, and I'm going to go with the hype. I got Bama, I got Michigan. I love Harbaugh, Houston, and Louisville.
You think Houston and Louisville make it? They play
I
each other
do.
in November.
One loss, and I think that Louisville still gets in.
You know, I think I've been influenced by Hunter Smith. I'm going to go with 2 ACC teams here. I'm going to go with Clemson and Louisville, Alabama, and then I think that Ohio State's going to get the edge in the Big Ten. Those are my 4. All right, next hot take. MVP for Iowa State football, not named Alan Lazard. Michael.
You want me to go first?
You go
Okay.
first.
If I could answer no one, I'll answer no one because there's nobody besides Alan Lazard that is playing that well right now. But I'll answer with a person still, and that's Matt Campbell, which may surprise a lot of people. He has had a poor start, but the team is improving, and he has had the right mindset. 4 turnovers in the first game, 1 in the second game, 0 in the third game. They're slowly improving in small ways. They've played easy team to a difficult team to a more difficult team. I mean, some would argue TCU versus Iowa, and they've also been able to put up a little bit more points. I think that this coach is the only thing, or their coach is the only thing that can really get them on the right track. Obviously, Lazard's going to be gone very soon, and I'm assuming one of you might say Mike Warren.
Murrell.
You know, I'm gonna say no one, and I say that because I looked hard. I looked at a dozen different defensive players. I looked all over the offense. I looked at Mike Warren. I looked at Joe Lanning. I looked. There was no one that has played good at all. I mean, the defense is only 2 turnovers and 5 sacks through 3 games. Mike Warren has yet to break 100 yards in a game, and he's supposed to be one of the best running backs in the Big 12. And Lanning hasn't passed for a touchdown since the UNI game. And there's no one on this roster who has done anything to deserve any sort of praise outside Alan Lazard.
I've looked on the defensive side for this one, and I could give it to a couple people. I think you can give it to Damon Tucker because he hasn't gotten any sacks yet because they've actually had to drop Damon Tucker, that big guy, back into coverage to help the linebackers make some tackles. So when you drop that man back in coverage to help you out with some deeper run defense, I think that says a lot of how well he can tackle. I also like what Mike Johnson has done coming in, safety as a freshman. You got to commend him for that. He's played well in his time while on the defensive end. All right, next hot take. We're going to go baseball here. Give me your NL MVP.
I'm going to go Daniel Murphy with the Nationals.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is I look at it, breaking it down, and I think Chris Bryant does have the best numbers and is the most deserving of the MVP. I think the problem with Chris Bryant is Rizzo's put up really good numbers as well.
That is a problem,
And what you see a lot of times with these is if you have 2 guys from the same team, they're going to steal a lot of votes because there are a lot of different people that have different opinions on who is helping the team the most.
I agree.
So I think Daniel Murphy's the one who wins it.
You mentioned Chris Bryant, and there's 2 guys here that are tight in the race aside from Murphy. It's Chris Bryant and Nolan Arenado. I'll take you through the numbers on both. Both batting .293. Arenado has 1 more homer, 38-37, but Arenado has 124 RBIs to Bryant's 96. And of course, the Cubs are performing way better than the Rockies are, but I still think I would give it to Nolan solely because of that RBI stat, as well as the fact that, like you mentioned, Anthony Rizzo, Jake Arrieta, you can just tell the Cubs are such a great team, and that might take away, actually, from Bryant getting the award.
Arenado's helped by the fact that he plays in Colorado.
He does play in Colorado, one of the smallest stadiums.
The RBIs and the home runs have an asterisk by it a little bit, but I agree. All of you guys, you brought up the 3 big ones. I think at this point I've got to go with Daniel Murphy for the NL MVP race. All right. Who's going to be the worst team in the NBA this year? Hot take, Murrell.
76ers. Until they show me anything otherwise, I'm going to pick the 76ers.
Mainzer.
I'm going to rebuttal his really quick. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, they're not going to be the worst team anymore. They won't be great, but they won't be the worst. I wish Kroeger was still here. Sacramento Kings are going to be terrible once again.
Yep.
DeMarcus Cousins just needs to leave already.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Kings will take over as the worst team in NBA this year. All right, who is the best 0-2 NFL team? Hot take, Mainzer.
I had the Chicago Bears written down. I'm not going with them anymore. Trevathan's out. I just can't do it on the show again. Instead,
it's a lie.
All right, I'll go with the New Orleans Saints, and most people will think that that's crazy. Their defense is so poor as well, but Drew Brees has just looked so good still. I think that they can at least dig themselves out of that hole. Their division isn't great. Go 7-9 or something.
Okay.
I am going to go with the Bears.
Come on.
And I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah, you tell me why.
All right, first off, that defense I still think is really good, even without Trevathan.
Even from 10 minutes ago, it's still really good.
Yeah, I still think the defense
hasn't changed.
The defense, I didn't say anything bad about the defense.
No, we're saying it
No,
hasn't
you
changed.
did. You did say good stuff.
The defense is, I think the defense is definitely going to carry that team a lot, and I think the offense is going to get better. The O-line is being recently put together to get better every game. There's a lot of talent at that in the trenches.
Does Cutler's injury to his thumb worry you? Or does Brian Hoyer better?
He's day to day right now, so we'll see how much time he misses. He's not going to need surgery, so I think the Bears are a lot better than their record in how they played states, as from a talent perspective and a coach perspective on that.
By week 6, mark my words of this show, Taylor Mankle will become a Bears fan.
No, never. But I think it's really a question between Colts and Saints here. I think the Colts, once they get everybody healthy on the defensive end, they have had 6 injuries in their secondary this year. That's incredible that they're still breathing on that field. And, the offense is just getting better week by week. You saw it in the second half of the Detroit game and then through most of the game in the Denver game, except for some offensive line miscues. So I think it's in between the Colts and then, like you said, Mainzer, the Saints. All right, a couple more here. The 2016 World Cup of Hockey is currently going on, and I know there are a lot of hot takes on this subject. Give me one. From the 2016 World Cup of Hockey. What do you think of it? Is it good? Is it bad? Give me a hot take.
I personally like it.
Really?
Yeah. I think
it's terribly put together.
I mean, it's bad right now. I think there's a lot of potential there. I like the fact that they have a European team. I think the North American team, when you have a Canada and the U.S. team, is kind of
That's pretty weird.
That's pretty dumb, because they're just going to get slaughtered all around.
I don't agree with that.
But I like it. I think the U.S. It's exciting because the U.S. has a good team. So
they already lost, didn't they?
Yeah, it's group play though. They play
Yeah.
Canada tonight. They need to win tonight to continue. But
They're not going to win tonight.
It's under 25 or under 23 for North America?
Under the country teams are under 23.
Under 23 North America team takes it all.
No.
Hot take.
They lost to Russia today, I think. But it's a terribly run thing, and it's just asking for injuries, and it'll also collide at some point with the Olympics, so it's a stupid idea. All right, here we go, last one. What is and this is a 3-parter here. What is the toughest sport? We'll start off with physically. What is physically the toughest sport out there?
I'm kind of going off the beam path with an Olympic sport. I think water polo is physically the hardest sport.
That is a good one.
I mean, you're literally...
I tried that this summer.
You're treading water
How did it go?
the whole time.
It was something else. It was if you're not a decent swimmer, you will die out there. Because they will drown you.
It's like rugby, except you're trying to tread water while playing.
No, it's not that rough. It's not rugby rough. Come on.
So so your answer is that at least rugby is more physical.
Oh, rugby is the most physically intense sport there is, for sure. That's easily my answer.
Okay. I won't go with rugby as well.
Physically demanding.
Both.
Okay.
Mine is, aside from those two, would be between hockey and football. But just after seeing all these injuries, I mean, look at all the injuries that happen all the time. Yeah, but it's not just that one position, though. You look at all the guys on the line and all the offensive skill players, like we mentioned today, that got injured. It's pretty physically taxing.
It's not football.
You're wrong.
They're consistently. They're the only sport. They're the only sport that is consistently trying to make their game more safe because they're so worried about it. And obviously, we're not allowed to answer boxing.
Because people are stupid and they tackle with their head and their face. But regardless, let's move on to mentally. Toughest sport mentally, quickly.
I think golf.
Exactly.
Golf.
Spot on. We're on the same page. All right. And then the last one. What is the hardest sport to be great at?
Baseball.
No, don't answer baseball.
I think you can question it. I mean, if you think of the best hitters of all time in baseball are only successful 30% of the time. You're hitting a round ball with a round bat going 95 miles per hour. It is easily the most difficult sport, in my opinion.
What do you think?
Can I say golf?
Yeah, that's what I'm going with.
Oh, well then. Yeah, I think it's golf, honestly.
I think it's golf.
It's partially because I took it up this summer, and it is so difficult.
It's the
but I will
hardest
stick
sport
to it.
by
It's
far.
very fun.
Oh, no, golf is definitely it. But that's what we're going to end our show on right here. First episode of Season 2 of KURE Sports on ISUtv. I'd like to thank Dylan Ryan, Garrett Kroeger, and Hunter Smith, as well as Michael Mainzer and Michael Murrell for hopping on the show today. Signing off for all of our fantastic crew, I'm Taylor Mankle. Until next week.